Hello, everybody, to another episode of the Beyond Grad Show. We have my friend Shreya Mehta. I'm excited to have her. We are going to talk about salary negotiations and screening interviews. I will let her introduce herself and then we'll get going.
Perfect. Thank you for having me, Varun. Hi, everybody. My name is Shreya. I'm the co founder of the Super Coach. I'm here because I have around 12 plus years in coaching. I have a good 5 years in recruiting with companies like Microsoft, Uber, TikTok, and Amazon. And today, me and Varun are sharing everything about salary, negotiating, and then a little bit on the screening rounds with the recruiter. I've also been an international student, so I've navigated F1, H4, so I kind of have an understanding of how it lands on a recruiter from the immigration perspective. So good to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. I will let everybody know, whoever's joining us on LinkedIn or YouTube, if you want to get a question in, you have to add it in the comment section of wherever you're watching this live. So if on LinkedIn, add it in the comment section. In YouTube, add it in the comment section. We would love to know if you are dialing in live, where who you are and where you're from. That would be awesome. In all the past episodes, we've got wonderful questions from the live section. So please make sure that you are sharing your questions so that I'm able to bring them in as I continue to lean on the experience that Shreya has. So, Shreya, the first segment that we are going to get into is a very fun kind of first segment, which is called thumbs up or thumbs down. So I'll ask a topic question and you just say that. So the first one here is two columns resume, thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay.
Absolutely thumbs down. I'm very confused which side am I reading. And when I'm scanning it for 6 seconds, I would rather have one thing at a time. It's like just giving me everything without a spotlight. So I would say one column always.
Yeah, it's very interesting you use that spotlight, which is it is my duty to drive the recruiter's eyes through what I feel they should read first. And the two column resume confuses that, just like you said.
Yeah.
Interesting. The next one is cover letters. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Somewhere in between, a lot of us don't read it. And when I say us, means I actually would take the liberty to speak from the recruiter community. A lot of us don't read it. Resume has a lot of information already. So, one, if you see an option of adding a cover letter, just go ahead and add it. Probably take 15 minutes to curate one. Second, if you don't see an option, do not put a lot of time into actually curating it and adding it. But if you're transitioning, if you're trying to find like a new role after a gap or whatever, if there is an explanation that is needed there, which is not added in the resume, then a big thumbs up to the cover letter.
Hmm. So it's like thumbs up in special situations,
Yeah.
maybe in a pivot or a career gap where you need to add more context that you can't in a resume.
Yes, correct, correct. But no application would ever get accepted or rejected because of the cover letter.
Hmm.
Yeah,
It's a good to have, essentially.
yeah, it's good to have. It's not a deal breaker. It's not must to have at all.
Hmm. Understood. Let's say you get a job offer from an interesting company.
Hmm.
You say yes, but then another job offer comes in, which is better for you, and you reject the first offer. Thumbs up or down?
Um, in this market, I would say thumbs down because if you're getting a certainty somewhere, take that. Ethically, thumbs down as well, because then you could be a red flag in the first company. Will they hold it against you? Yes, they can. They may. I have seen companies doing that where they red flag you that you left like too early or you accepted an offer and did not join. They would red flag you. So thumbs down on the side of professional experience for the company and for yourself, and also thumbs down on the unethical side of it. But if it's you were just accepting the first offer because of a timeline or because of the financial stability, and then you found something which was more aligned, um, I mean, then you have more reasons to do it, right? Then a very light thumbs up. But
Hmm.
I'm again, and probably it's a little bias also, right, Varun? Because from the recruiter side, it's not a very great experience to have somebody in the pipeline for 2 months or for 4 weeks and then have them rejected, and for me to open the whole um, role again. So I would say thumbs down for that.
I think I need to ask you a couple questions there.
Yeah.
One is, I can totally understand like a red flag for the company.
Hmm.
How long does the red flag stay? Is this a bridge that is completely burnt for that particular group or for the company? Give us some indication of that.
Yeah, so when somebody puts a red flag or any kind of notes on a candidate's profile, Varun, it's usually visible to most of the recruiters until and unless it's a confidential information for their team itself, like a loop round or something. Recruiters can usually see internally all the notes that a candidate has, right? So in terms of how long that red flag would be, just depends on the company. Also, how great the candidate was, how well they performed in an interview, and if we feel like, wait, we can bring them back after 6 months, 8 months, or a year, we might. And is it for throughout the company? Mostly yes, because this is more of a cultural thing than just on the technical or non-technical side of qualities, right? It's more of a cultural fit that if somebody can say no and then just not take an offer and walk out, they're not more committed to what we are offering to the projects. They're not interested in what we were offering, right? So um, it could be a long-term affair.
Hmm. Interesting. By the way, we do have our first question by Gurwani, but I'll
Yeah.
stick on. We'll complete this segment
Okay.
and I'll make sure I take that question when the time is right.
All right.
Now, coming back to the red flag. Now,
Hmm.
this is a maybe a stupid question, but something that came to mind is that if some notes get stuck to a candidate,
Hmm.
if I apply from a different email address or if I apply
Hmm.
create a different profile, will still apply, or I found a loophole of for myself?
Such a great question. So I'll take a minute of coaching here, and this is for everybody. No question is a stupid question. This is such a good question, Varun, right? So yes, notes stay with you with your profile for a while until and unless like they're changing the CRM or they have like wait 6 months and no notes and they're clearing the history and not seeing in the front page of the ATS. Then yes. So short answer, yes, it stays there. Second question was if I change the email, would they not see the notes? Sometimes yes, they would not see it, but also know it that within the database, within the system, it's not just the email that I'm actually categorizing the profiles, it's also the phone numbers, right? So even
Mhm.
if you have a different email, yes, for few months, for few days, I might not be able to check that they are duplicate profiles. But today or tomorrow, like my database would actually highlight it and be like it will flag it and be like, wait, there is a duplicate profile. Looking at the work experience, the education or other companies that you have on your profile. So I would come to know, if not sooner, maybe later, I would come to know.
Understood. Now, from the candidate side, I know I'm drilling down on this topic because I think it is an important one.
Yeah.
The candidate side, we all talk about more empowerment for the candidates, right? If
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
find a better role, you have to you have to make decisions for yourself. No
Yeah.
company is a family
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So make decisions for yourself.
Yeah.
Let's say you do take the next offer,
Yeah.
and let's say you burn a bridge with a company, but this is a
Yeah.
big company that you probably want to in the future.
Yeah.
What can a candidate do to kind of make sure they are back to be applicable for a future role?
Um, so one is they can have internal referrals. They can speak with internal leaders and try finding that advocate within the company. Second could be they can actually build a profile that the company cannot say no to. Right? These are more controllable things, Varun. I cannot change the company policies. I cannot tell them that, hey, my intentions were something else. Please take me back. All of those are uncontrollable. So one thing would be to find a referral, find an advocate within the company. Second would definitely be like to build a profile and to apply a role which is more you're very certain that this is a great match and you would be a great value to the team. Those two things. But again, this is over and above the idea of what the policy of the company would be.
Understood. All right, let's move on to the thumbs up, thumbs down segment
Yeah.
here. The next one is two-page resumes for people over 5 years of experience.
Thumbs up. If you have 5 years of experience and you have switched companies, you have multiple internships to show, you have done volunteer work, which is absolutely relevant to the work that you're looking for, always a thumbs up. When I say not a two-page resume, is especially when you're putting in like all possible things that you have done, relevant or irrelevant, because you're just letting the recruiter or the interviewer decide that, hey, can you just fetch whatever is relevant and then call me for a screening, right? That's the spotlight effect that I was talking about earlier. Give me all the things that is important that makes you a valuable candidate, and I'm all in because I want this role to be closed faster than probably these candidates wants the job, which is very weird to say, but I want this to be closed faster as well because the team wants to want that candidate. So should you have two-page resume? Yes, if you have a lot of things to share, all relevant and all related to the skill set that the team is looking for. Yes, you can.
Awesome. Sometimes you have such a long, also like multiple experiences. You want to make sure that there is readability in the resume. You're not cluttering everything in one page.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Next one is applying when you only meet 60% of the requirements.
I would say thumbs up. And a lot of people are going to come at me for this, but I'll explain why. One, do not spend a lot of time on the resume finding the referrals and all if you're only a 60% match, right? Because sometimes recruiters and hiring managers, when they are crafting that JD, it's not 100% of what they want. It's still 80% of what they want. 20% it's still flexible depending on the project, depending on the dynamics of the team, the non-tech skills that they're looking for, right? So I would say yes, go ahead and apply to it. Just do not invest a lot of time in finding referrals or updating your resume, because when you find referrals, it's their credibility attached to it. And if you're only 60% matched to it, they might or might not give you a referral the next time. Correct? So that's one. And second, if you have like 80% or more, that's when you want to tweak your resume, find a referral, because you are also more confident on the role that you're applying to. So thumbs up to it, but just not investing a lot of time.
That is such an excellent nuance, Shreya, which is you are trying to judge whether you want to go in all guns blazing or not.
Yeah.
And if you are a 60% match, it's better off applying cold and hoping that there's some luck involved.
Yeah.
And then also not going through a referral because, yeah, absolutely right. A referral is always putting their reputation on the line. And you
Yeah.
don't want that reputation to be hurt because you are like it's a long shot and you're just trying something.
Correct. And do you see how I'm talking from both the perspectives, Varun, like not just a recruiter and not just a can. I want to share both the perspective. I've been on both sides of the table, right? And
Yeah.
this I gave you an information from the perspective of a candidate because I want all of us to know that even if it's a referral and if it's only a 60% match, I as a recruiter would probably reject that application. I have that
Mm.
power to do that, right? And
Yeah.
I do have that authority to do that as well because I don't want to clutter my screening call schedules. Plus, cannot and shouldn't clutter the other interviewers' schedules as well, right? Because if
Mm.
I take somebody who's a 60% match, my hiring manager will have to sit with them, my team will have to sit with them. Correct? That's
Mm.
a lot of resources included where the person was not a great fit.
If you are only applicable for the 60% of the requirements, what will make you get a call? Because I can totally understand the recruiter side, right? The
Yeah.
recruiter
Yeah.
is, I have a finite amount of time.
Hmm.
And if I have a lot of demand for that role where people are already meeting 80, 90%, then
Yeah.
what's the point?
Exactly.
But you see something, let's say in that 60% profile, what is that
Yeah.
something that would push you to bring that person in?
Yeah. That could be a very specific project, experience, or a tool that the team is looking for. That, hey, we are trying to transition from A to B tool, has just find somebody who's worked on the B tool. Now, the B tool could be obsolete, the B tool could be like super new in the market, and not a lot of people have worked on it, right? But if somebody has done even like one academic project on that, or like a very small sprint on that tool with the current project that they have, I would still want to bring them in and have a conversation. That way, my hiring manager is looking for somebody who's a 6 or a 7 on this tool. If you're even closer, I can have you sit with them and then you all can decide the scope of the work and the project. Correct. So, yes, the 60% still, if it's a crazy match, where out of the 5 responsibilities or the 5 bullet points that we have in the JD, you're matching like 3 pretty strong. That means you've done that all through your career, then yes, why not? And that's why I said thumbs up. Always take that chance.
Mm,
I would not reject myself. I would let the recruiters do that. Self rejection in this market is not a great idea. But clarity is great,
absolutely.
but self rejection is not a great idea.
Excellent points. We have four more thumbs up and thumbs down. And I
Let's
know
do
I'm
that.
digging in because I think this is something that is a hot button topic, all of these questions.
Yeah.
You are a recruiter, you see somebody as a candidate who's applied for a position,
Mhm.
they are a creator on LinkedIn or they write
Mm.
on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up for two things. One, anybody who's putting anything out there, Varun, imagine the amount of clarity that they have, right? I cannot be out there posting and writing about something if I don't have clarity of my thoughts or the work that I do. So, thumbs up. But thumbs down if there is a conflict of interest or there could be legal issues around it, right? If I'm a team who would want to look into it, I would probably look into the idea of what they're posting. Are they talking about their current company? Are they talking about the work that the current company does? If they are, it could be a thumbs down because there could be legal actions. Or as a recruiter, my company can have legal issues or conflict of interests around that, right? When I was a recruiter, I had that conflict of interest because I was talking about coaching and job search and how to get the next job, and I was also recruiting people. So I had to have that conversation with my manager that, hey, can you like just skim through my content and see if this is all okay? And then she's like, okay, wait, I'll keep an eye out on it. And if I see anything which seems like more insider information, I'll share it with you. So you don't have to go to the legal first, right? So thumbs up to those candidates. Yes, I just want to make sure that there is, I have taken that cautious of making sure that there is no legal action later or conflict of interest because what they do, I'm pretty sure they like that already. Me bringing them as a candidate and then telling them that you can't do this wouldn't be a fair deal for either.
Awesome. Completely on board.
Hmm.
We have a total of three questions already. Once we finish with this segment, before we go into the negotiation, I'll
Yeah.
bring those three questions in so that the people can get their answers.
All right.
Thumbs up or thumbs down, AI generated resume bullets.
I see people writing spearheaded. Dude, I have never spoken that word in my entire life while communicating with somebody. Why are people doing that to themselves? Yes to using AI, no to curating the bullet points completely out of that without using your brain. Wait, you're asking for a 150K salary, and you're claiming that you have 5 years of experience. Are you saying you cannot curate your own bullet points? That's bizarre, right? That is the first professional document any interviewer or any company sees from you. They don't know you. They don't know the work that you do, right? That's the first professional conversation that you're having with them. And you're saying that I can't have that first professional conversation without AI. That's a question mark on everything that you're sharing in that resume. Um, Second, yes, please use AI. That's, I mean, it saves time. It gives you a lot of thought processes, but then once the AI has given you everything, then put your brain. Edit it a little bit where you're reading it and you're like, wait, what? Right? Just edit it from there. So, yes to AI, but a huge plus to using your human brain and your experiences because still there is a human reading it.
AI is not trained on your internal data, the thing that you have in your head, the past experience that you've done. None of it was used to train AI. So the
Yeah.
expecting AI to write a bullet for you that is applicable is just crazy.
Right. And I'm assuming all of this that people feed AI their work experience and then the AI curate the bullet point, right? So there's something um in those bullet points which is still related to their work, right? All
Mhm.
I'm saying and I'm adding to it is even if it is everything that you have done in those bullet points, it still needs to sound a little human and conversational. As much as I
Mhm.
want them to be very concise, very impactful, right? Like my favorite way of writing a bullet point is AI, which is action plus impact, right?
Mm.
But when people talk about action and impact, they forget that there's still somebody else reading that. Can you make it more conversational rather than just saying that,
Mhm.
hey, I created a dashboard for weekly reporting to the leadership? I get that, but can you make it more conversational for me to understand, okay, what happened now when they are reading that? Is it for decision making? Is it for effective customer onboarding? What is it for, right? So, um, again, yes to AI, but a bigger plus to a bigger yes to knowing that they know your work, but then also a human touch to it.
Awesome. Final one on the thumbs up and thumbs down segment is open to work banner on LinkedIn.
Yes, especially if you're on a timeline. either because of visa, either because of financial stability, either because of the career gap, I would say yes. Why? Because when I reach out to people who have open to work ban, and though I have expectations also, I'm expecting that they would reply before the end of the day, right? That means within 5 6 hours, because if somebody is open to work, they should be living on LinkedIn. And it's not a
Hmm.
wrong expectation. I was living on LinkedIn when I was searching for my next role, right? So um, it's a good way for just letting them know that yes, I'm looking for it. Now the second thing is recruiters have a separate tool which is called LinkedIn recruiting, right? I can internally see who all are open to work even without the banner, right? But hiring managers cannot,
Mm-hmm.
employees cannot. People
Hmm.
who want to or do not want to, or figuring out do they should they give you a referral or not, they don't know if you're searching for a role, right? So if you have that
Mm-hmm.
open to work banner, it sometimes is good, especially if you're on timeline, like I said. So, and again, I want to add before you ask that, would people have biases if you are like open to work? Is it desperate? Yes and no. It could be a very thin line of difference between desperation and passion. You're passionate about getting your next role. You're passionate about not um, not being financially unstable. You're passionate about sharing all the skill set or the work that you have with another company, right? So would people say no to your requests, your connection requests, because you have open to work banner? Possibly yes. But then those are the people who would say no even after accepting it, right? So you're just filtering them out faster.
Okay, excellent. I like that point about yes, bias exists.
Yeah.
Just learn how to deal with that bias. It is still more productive to have that banner on for recruiters and for people who would love to help. There
Yeah.
are people on the other side who've been through this job search process who
Yeah.
understand the same things that you are trying to feel. So they'll be there to help you. That's
Right.
excellent. Awesome. Shreya, so far, awesome.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some questions before we move on to the salary part. So,
Absolutely.
just
Let's
so
take it.
everybody knows, whoever
Hmm.
is joining us,
Hmm.
you can always ask questions in the comment section of where you're joining us from on LinkedIn as well as YouTube. I will bring in those questions from time to time in the interview. I will ask Shreya about all the negotiating thing that
Hmm.
we have. I don't see a negotiation question yet, but I think what you can answer pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So this is the first question we had, which was how are career gaps seen by recruiters? What are some potential concerns and ways to handle them?
Such a great question, Gurvani. That's a beautiful name. Okay, so first I would say 6 to 8 months in this market wouldn't matter. Honestly, people have been getting jobs after a couple of years of gaps as well. So I wouldn't worry if you have that gap. You shouldn't worry about that. Second, if I'm a recruiter and if I'm looking for somebody who's coming back after a gap, I would look at the skill set that they have and then what they might be doing during these 6 to 8 months, right? Now I understand in the resume you would not be able to add what you have been doing, but on your LinkedIn you could add. It could be certifications, it could be content, it could be the way you are interacting with other people through comments, it could be how well your digital presence is. I would look into all of those things, but your resume should have the right skill set and the right experiences that the JD is asking for. Again, saying the same thing, 6 to 8 months in this market as a gap is, it's not a big deal.
Awesome. It's just how you present yourself. You are able to cover that gap on LinkedIn, doing some certifications, networking with people. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
right.
All right. Next question is from Neeraj.
Mhm.
He asks, is it a good idea to share resume with recruiters via LinkedIn messages? If yes, how do you approach this?
Hi, Nina. It's a great question. So, yes, you should be able to share your resume or why you for the role through an email with the recruiter. And then the approach would be very simple. If you see them hiring for something, recruiting for something, just go ahead, add an in-mail message, and then add your resume, add the JD that you are looking at, and then why you are a good fit for the role. And then all you want is like a 15-minute or a 30-minute initial conversation with them. I just want to add one more thing to it, Varun, that recruiters have a very good rep of not replying on LinkedIn, and which is true. And I'll say why, because once we start replying, then it's such a people. feel like entitled that now the recruiter is going to reply, they're going to share everything about the application, they're going to share why they were rejected, there is going to be a feedback, and they're not very polite with them in the messages, right? So a lot of us, even if we see the message, we see the resume, we only reply when we think this is a good fit, right? So don't think they're ghosting you. Like I said earlier, they want the role to be filled faster than probably you want that job, right? So yes, reach out to them, but the response rate could be low. Another thing I would suggest you do, Neeraj, is add more employees from that company and see if they can give you a referral, if they can be your advocate internally, especially if you have the good profile, like if it's a 80% built on the JD. So how do you reach out to them? First is in-mail, second is cold emailing them, try to find their emails and then just cold email them. That works really well as well. Third way is if you're not reaching out to the recruiters, or if the response rate is not high, then I would go ahead and find an employee in the company for a referral.
So, yes, to being able to send your resume via LinkedIn, really good nuance about not expecting a recruiter to respond. They're not being rude. They're just trying to save their time by not opening this never ending loop of conversation,
Yeah,
especially if you're not a fit.
yeah.
Great point there. Now, one question I have recently, I posted a script that I use and my
Hmm,
mentees use to reach out
hmm,
to recruiters.
yeah.
Really good engagement on that script. A few people mentioned that the length is too long.
Hmm, hmm,
And
hmm,
I said, look, every recruiter will also have their own bias. Like some people would like to have information, some people
hmm,
would like
hmm,
to have
hmm,
like a short paragraph.
hmm.
Just like some hiring managers like only one page resumes, they'll
Yeah,
immediately reject some two-page resumes, whatever. That's
yeah,
just an example.
yeah.
What about like what, according to you, what would you prefer? Like a note which has 2 to 3 bullets of
Hmm,
really strong impact that they've done, or
hmm.
something very short and you attaching your resume so that they can look at the resume and not spend any time reading?
I am a fan of Spotlight, and I'll keep on saying that, Varun, because you're not leaving me alone to fish information from that long message. You're just giving me exactly what I'm looking for, right?
Hmm.
And that Spotlight really helps because look at the span of concentration that we all have, right? um, that message is a priority for a candidate, it might or might not be a priority for me at that moment. Correct.
Mhm.
So I would definitely say good 5 bullet points also, but then give me in bullet points rather than like me fishing it through the paragraph that what is important, you trying to bold it in the message. Just give me like 5 good points of like why, what makes you a good candidate. Like you have it in the JD, you have 5 bullet points of like the rules and responsibility. Give me 5 bullet points of what makes you a good candidate. At the end, obviously the kind of tools and skills that you have worked with, so that I also know that wait, they have everything that I'm looking for. And then at the end, the resume, because the resume would give me more idea of where have you used these tools. So short answer, it is not about the length, it is more about how are you presenting it. So not about what are you saying, but how are you saying it as well, right? So what are you saying it is always what makes you a good fit, but how are you saying it? Are you just giving me like two big paragraphs and I'm fishing information out of it, or you're just giving me like 5 good bullet points and then just one resume and a JD. I mean, when I say a JD, that means a job ID.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works, right? Because in the script that I use, I share at the top in the first paragraph number of years of experience in a
Yeah,
directly related field. I
yeah,
give three impact metrics, like three impact
yeah,
statements, and
yeah.
then end there. But it's surprising how there is a small subset
Hmm,
of recruiters and hiring managers who don't even want that. And
hmm,
then there will also be a subset who will want more
hmm.
information, maybe 5 bullets, etc. You just have to you
Yeah,
just have
that's
to do what you think is best in that situation.
absolutely, because that's also how individual process that informations, right? If
Mhm.
you go out there on LinkedIn, you would see somebody like posting like a huge post, and then you're like, wait, who's going to read that much? Versus somebody who's going to be like, this is great information, I read until the end, right? So obviously that's more of like an individual understanding and how they process the information. I would still say writing what makes you a good fit for the role in a very structured manner is always a good idea, so that we can avoid the to and fro of like, wait, can you tell me more about yourself?
Awesome. Understood. Wanted to highlight that because sometimes people can get stuck. Oh, this is the only way to do this, or that is the only way to do
Yeah, of
that.
course.
Awesome. Next question from Aishwarya, which is thanks for the great session. And we are glad that you are here, Aishwarya. Is it true that companies get back to candidates within 24 hours when they want to move forward the candidate to the next round? And what does it mean when the companies take time to get back to candidates after an interview round?
Okay. Thank you that you're liking the session, Ashwara, and thank you for the question. So, no, um, I don't think the timeline would define that how much a company wants a candidate for two reasons. One, it depends on what kind of conversation you all have already had, right? That means about the compensation, about the relocation, about you being a good fit, what kind of conversations you've already had with the team if you had the loop round. If they've not given you any timeline, I wouldn't say that if they have not come back within 24 hours they don't want you or otherwise, right? There are a lot of times we reject candidates within 24 hours because we just want to clean the pipeline and be like, wait, this is not working. So one or the other is not a sign, right? Second, why some of these candidates might have to wait a little longer, or why the companies take a little longer. One, there is budget approval, right? Sometimes the compensation that the company approved is a little less than what the candidate is looking for. And then I want you as a candidate. The team wants you as a candidate. Now I want to go to the finance team, approve a newer budget. That could take 3 to 5 days, right? Now, if the finance team wants to approve that budget, they need to go to the leadership to approve that budget. So there are a lot of nuances that we don't know in the back end, and that's why this discussion. But one or the other, no, that's not a decision maker. Sometimes it takes time to find the right team for you. Sometimes it takes time to figure out, wait, you're relocating. If you relocate after 2 months, after 2 weeks, then what project we can put you in. Team needs to decide a lot of things internally also, correct? And obviously, once you have that loop round, and I really want to share that, Varun, once these candidates have a loop round, a lot of the interviewers actually sit together, not a lot, all the interviewers actually sit together with the recruiter and have like a table discussion about why do we want this candidate versus why we might have to say no, right? And in that discussion also could take like a couple of days because we need to get all the interviewers on the schedule. Correct. Now, if it's a very time sensitive role that they really need to fill in, the candidate would know from the very beginning. Correct. And then that ways you would know that, wait, they said it's time sensitive and they haven't gotten back to me in a week. Then you kind of know that they might not need you, right? But if they've never shared that urgency, I would say 24 hours more or 24 hours less would not be an indicator of their decision.
Excellent points. So 24 hours is if you don't hear back, you are not out of the race.
Yeah.
At the same time, if it's taking a week, 2 weeks, you are more better off just assuming that, okay, let's just move on and apply for other positions. If this comes back to you, then great. If not, then at least you made progress and you not put all this eggs on this bucket.
Yeah.
But excellent points also about all the things that go on the back end and why it can take time.
Yeah. I want to just add one more thing to it. I would actually not stop any of my job search machinery until I have a signed offer. So it doesn't matter I've given a loop just today. I would probably take the evening off, probably take tomorrow off to breathe, and then day after as if I have no offer. I would just go on with
Mm.
my life, right? I would just go on with my life of job search. Please do not stop until you have a signed offer in this market, because once the consistency breaks, Varun, it's very difficult to get back to it, especially after like accept like receiving like a reject from somewhere where you were actually hoping you will receive an accept offer, right? So this is for everybody who is listening. To not stop until you have a signed offer. Even if you have a loop and you're waiting on them, just keep on following up. Make sure that you are taking that brain space, you're creating that visibility through emails, but do not stop everything else that you need to know to do to find that job.
Great point. I'm going to move on to the salary questions because I definitely want to make sure that we share all that good information.
Yeah.
Before I do that, here's a final comment from Radhika, which is
Hmm.
haven't hiring trend recently changed though? Because LinkedIn email responses have drastically gone down in this market. I'll add my flavor and then Shreya, you can quickly validate that or share your own insight.
Mhm.
Radhika, to be honest, I think it's all a demand and supply game.
Mm.
if the recruiters have a ton of demand, then they don't really need to go through all these different channels to find the right candidates.
Hmm.
That can be a job market specific thing where there are thousands of applications right now, but it can also be a hot versus cold title. If it's a hot
Hmm.
title, they probably don't need to care about all of these things. If
Hmm.
it's a cold title, even in a bad job market, by cold, I mean something that is not very popular, something that is very niche. If that is the case, it might work even in a hot market because nobody, where the demand for the recruiter is not
Hmm.
that high. So they are able to go and look for the right candidates.
Yeah, no, I would agree with it. And honestly, the hiring trend has nothing to do directly with somebody responding or not responding. I agree with what you just said, Varun, that it is more about like if they already have a lot of applicants in the system, why would they go out and like, find other candidates? Now, that doesn't mean that they're not reading. They might not just be responding because they have better candidates in the pipeline for that matter. Second is if I would reply to that in-mail, even if you're not a great match, like I said earlier, the loop of conversations doesn't it wouldn't end, and then it's going to be very difficult for the recruiter. So I don't think the hiring trend has anything to do with that in-mail specifically. The only thing that has changed is the idea of the demand and supply that Varun um, was mentioning. So yeah.
Awesome. And that behooves a question, which is from your entire recruiting experience,
Mm.
w- can you tell me the highest numbers of roles that you were like hiring for, not consecutively, but at that moment? Like at that moment, you have like these many roles. And what was the lowest? I'm curious to know what the band, like what the pressure is on the
Yeah,
recruiters
yeah.
as well.
So I think I have hired as high as 17 at the same time and as low as 3. But when I was doing the 3, I had like director of product managers that I was doing, and that was very niche that you were just talking about, right? So there's a lot of me going and fishing out for the candidates rather than just candidates applying as well. So, so for an example, if I would just do um, a data scientist for 2 years, right? I would probably have 1,500 applications. But if I would do a data scientist for like over, say, 20 years, I would probably have like I don't know, 15, 20, 50 applications, right? So I would have to go and find them. So that's why the difference of like, if it's a very niche role, you sometimes don't have a lot because then your manager wants you to like just concentrate and then find the right candidate. And those conversations can take a toll because again, with 20 years of experience, you're looking at something very specific and they probably have a platter and you got to figure it out. Which one do I want from that platter? But yeah, 17 and 3 has been my range.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like when you think of that, the 17 is insane. And even the three that you mentioned, it's not like they are easy to fill. They are three because somebody decided that that is your bandwidth. You can
Yeah.
only handle three right now because you have to do a lot more work.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it does take a lot more work, is what we're talking about, right? Because you have to reach out to these candidates, find the right profile, have conversations, more screening rounds than any other role, just to figure out, like, wait, the expertise that they're sharing right now after 20 years of experience, is that what my hiring manager is looking for? So yes, and now I'm figuring it out, like, wait, what? I did 17 really at the same time? That does sound crazy. But yeah.
Okay. I'm getting amazing questions in here. At the same time, I want to ask people to send salary negotiation related questions at least
Yeah.
for the next 20 minutes. I
Hmm.
want to focus on that. Now, quick question, Shreya, do you have a hard stop at the 1 hour mark, or we can go 10, 15 minutes up, or
We can go
no?
10 minutes up. Yeah.
Okay. So that I know like how to kind of rank these questions as we go along.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a good segue into what Raman mentions here, how to do salary negotiation. And I think there are multiple parts of the whole process where salary comes into the question.
Yeah.
Let's take the first part
Yeah.
of it, which is in the application process. In
Yes.
the application, you are asked the salary question. How should somebody handle that? Do they have to fill that number? What can they do there to still qualify for the role
Hmm.
without
Hmm.
sharing an exact number?
I would say first to and extensive market research, right? That means you need to know the numbers in terms of the location, in terms of the role, the company, the title, everything that you're getting. Do that market research. I like calling it like the blind grind. That means if you're going in all blind, then you have no power. You have no positioning in that call, right? So go in with a lot of research. And I know that we're talking about application, but this applies to every conversation that you're having with any company. Second would be having conversation with people who are already at that level, right? And again, that's why I keep on going back to the idea of networking, having advocates within the company. Have a conversation with them. And I understand not a lot of people would want to talk about their salaries, but if you are like connected with them one to one beyond those transactionals, hey, can you share a referral? People would be open to do it. Like nobody would, if they have a good number, they would want to share with you, right? And if they don't have a good number, maybe not a right company for you either, right? So first I would say is make sure that you are researching, and there are good websites to find that, right? There's blind, there's levels.fyi. You can actually, Glassdoor actually shares the salary range as well. So yes, you should be able to share that in the application. Do you have to? No, you don't have to. But should you know the numbers? Yes, you should always know the numbers, because imagine if you fill the application today and if the recruiter calls you tomorrow that, wait, we really like it. What is your salary range? Now you don't know it. Correct. So, um, yes, to that, yes, write it down. You don't have to write it down in the application, but knowing is a good idea. So, research your numbers according to the location, the company, the title, and what other people might be getting through the websites like levels.fyi, Glassdoor, Blind.
That is a lot of front loading that you have to do. But the front loading actually helps you throughout this process. And it can be the factor between you getting the lowest that they wanted to offer
Hmm.
versus the budget that they had, the
Yeah.
full budget that they had for this role. And this can be 10,000 for like in the 10,000 range for 90 to 100,000 roles, and this can be 20, 30, 40, $50,000 if you go higher.
Of course, of course, of course. Like if I would write down like an 80K to 110K, and even if the company was okay giving you 90K, they will be okay to giving you 80K, because that's where you were okay with. So me as a recruiter, I would start the negotiation as at 80K. Why would I start it at 90K? Because that was my lower range, but your lower range is lower than mine. So I would start at 80K, because that's a great thing. Me as a recruiter, I am bringing back um, I'm actually bringing back money for the company, right? Because I got an approval from like 90 to 110K, but then now you're okay with 80. Even if you negotiate, you'll probably go down to like 85 or 87. Still a win for me, right? Um, y- yeah.
So, what should you do? Should you leave it blank in the application? Because sometimes they don't allow you to leave it blank.
Hmm,
But then, if you add a number or if you even add a range, you are anchoring yourself
hmm.
to that. So, what should you do?
So I would say if they do not allow you to leave it blank, if it's a mandatory question, if your lower range is 90, then probably write like 95 or 100K, right? And I want to add, like, would they reject somebody who's asking for a higher salary? They might not if you have a good profile. Varun,
Hmm.
everything goes back to the value that you're putting on the table, right?
Hmm.
If your resume and if the value that you're putting on the table is something that they want, they'll be okay speaking with you and clarifying that, wait, hey, our lower range is 90, you are asking for 100. Um, are you flexible there, right? Because I would not just let go of a candidate just because there's a 10K gap, right?
Hmm.
um Again, depends on, do I have other people who have such a great profile plus they're okay with the 90K? If they are,
Hmm.
I'll probably take them. Yes.
Hmm. So again, it is all a matter of where you fit in the competition that you have.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you anchor yourself appropriately. And if they already have applicants who are willing to take less salary, they will go with it. And you should be fine with that because maybe you are not willing to go
Yeah,
with
yeah.
that
And
salary.
assuming both the profiles are same. Assuming that's an
Right.
assumption that both the profiles are
Right.
same. And then if one person is asking for a lower number, then I would probably want that. Like, I mean, who would not want that, right? I would probably want that. Plus including the idea of relocation, the idea of sponsorship, the idea of how fast can you join. A lot of these are also factors, honestly.
Right. And you mentioned something very interesting also, which is if you provide a range,
Hmm.
know that the recruiter will come start the negotiation at the lower side of the range that you have mentioned. And
Hmm.
then it is your negotiation skills, the leverage that you have, the data that you have to kind of pull them towards that.
Absolutely. And that's why I say that the digital profile is extremely important, because even if they're looking at your if even if they're calling you for a screening round and you're negotiating on the screening round, they would go back to your LinkedIn and be like, wait, like, is this everything that I see in the resume? Is there more on the LinkedIn, right? So that's why the digital profile is also important. That way they would have more understanding of what you have done, how are you thinking, what comments are you adding, what is your about section. Yeah, just adding more value through that as well.
Interesting. So you can the another leverage can be how you have positioned yourself online
Yeah.
and whether the recruiter believes that okay, there is a lot of value to be had here, and then that can be a discussion
Correct.
point as well.
Correct, right? Because resume has limited space, limited way that you can write those things. That's why people have GitHub. That's why we have portfolios. A lot of us have like personal websites, so that people can just go and watch. So yes, digital profiles can actually add a lot more value, for the recruiter, for the hiring managers, for any interviewers, because they do go through those things.
So then what, like, let's say I've set a range or I've figured out a way to answer this question
Hmm.
in the application. The same question comes up in the screening round. Maybe I
Hmm.
left it blank
Hmm.
and now the recruiter is
Hmm.
asking, okay, what is your
Hmm.
expected salary? Or they ask you, what is your previous salary? I know those are different questions, but how do you answer? How do you basically be nimble enough in this screening conversation
Hmm.
to keep options open for yourself
Hmm.
while also making sure that you progress to future rounds?
So one, I don't think they can legally ask your last salary or current salary.
Some
They shouldn't be.
states.
Yeah, okay, yes. So, I mean, it's kind of now frowned upon. Like, even if they ask, like, people are like, wait, why are you asking that? But yes, some
Yeah.
states cannot ask that. And I've mostly worked in states where they cannot ask, right? So, which is great. I never had to ask that question. But one, if you have never answered that and now you're having that discussion, there are a couple of things that you want to think about. First is you don't want to value yourself less, in the
Mm,
sense that I just want a role. I can start as soon as you want to. This is just an opening door for me. Or wait,
mm,
like, I'm here to learn. I don't care about the numbers. Do not use any of those things, right? Because it's very unfair for yourself when you actually sell yourself short. So don't do that, right?
mhm,
I usually call it like the imposter spiral, because you're like, wait, somebody needs to like my numbers for them to take me to the next round, right? You do not have to get
mm,
into it. So do not get that imposter syndrome that I have to sell myself short. That's the first thing I would say. Do not use anything that is like that you're not valuing yourself enough, right? Second is definitely have a range, like we spoke about earlier, which is the blind grind. Definitely have a range. If you don't have a range, they would probably give you a range, and then you would agree to it thinking that, wow, somebody's giving me 90K, wow, somebody's giving me 220K, that's amazing. And then when you'll go and research and you'll realize, wait, it is 120K or it's like a 300K package, and I actually agreed to something less. And then you then changing the numbers for your compensation might not sit really well with the recruiter, because they
mm,
aligned with you first, right? And
mm,
third thing that I would really say is, do not go and have that first conversation with the recruiter. Have that conversation in your mind multiple times, right?
mm,
That if somebody asked me what would I say, I would say 90K. Wait, I would not say anything. And I'll give you a dialogue here, right, Varun? If somebody asks you, if I'm a recruiter and if I'm asking the other person that, hey, what is the compensation range that you're looking at, the person instantly shouldn't answer like, hey, I'm looking for 90K to 120K. That's what is the market value, right? How much do you offer? What's the point of knowing now how much do they offer? You've given them their number, your numbers, right?
mhm,
I'll probably say that that's such a great question. I'm glad that we're bringing the salary numbers here. Can you tell me what is the range for this role? I saw a range in the JD, or there was nothing in the JD. Can you talk to me more about what is the range, right? It's always
mm,
good to throw back that question to them with
mm,
a lot of politeness. I cannot ask. Yes, you can, and I'm glad that you're bringing that, Varun. Yes, you can ask them
mhm,
the range, right? And even if they are not having that conversation, the screening, you can have that conversation and be like, hey, the JD did not mention anything about the salary. Can you talk to me a little bit about the range so we're aligned moving forward?
mhm,
My biggest tip would be try not giving your numbers first in the conversation. always give them question back. Now, the first way you can give is, hey, there was nothing in the JD or there were numbers in the JD. Can you tell me more about the range? Second throwback question could be, oh, I'm glad that you have a range. And then when they ask you, I have 90 to 110, does that work for you? You can be like, can you tell me more about what the components of that looks like? Right? Is it the base that you're talking about? Is it the whole salary that you're talking about, the whole compensation? Can you talk about the components of the compensation? You have more information now, right? Now, when you have more information, attach that to the research that you have done, think fast in the moment, and then tell them what that range looks like, right? And that's why I said, do not have that practice gap. That means the first time you're practicing a salary conversation shouldn't be in front of the recruiter. You should have done that multiple times in your brains, like multiple times already, with the numbers you have through your research. Now, does that matter? Does the salary conversation matter? Can you change it later? How important it is? It is very important, right? Can you change it later? I suggest no, don't do it. Because now when you've aligned with a number, the recruiter and the interviewer are going to think like, wait, we can take them forward. This is one of the factors to go forward in the next round, that we are aligned, right? Because if you are asking for, let's say, 200K, I'm giving you 150K, you're going to be super unhappy. I would constantly think that if I would extend that offer, you're going to reject it,
Hmm.
right? So if you've aligned at 150, stick at 150. Do not come back to me and be like at the end, I want 200 now. I know that if I would give you 150 offer, you're going to reject it. Second is, what if I go without knowing any numbers? Then that ways, oh, then that ways you are not one prepared, and second, you're not putting your value out there. Because think of it that way, Varun. If I'm thinking I'll give you a 90 as my number, right? Versus I'll give you 110 as my number. I will answer and value myself at 110, right? I
Hmm.
would not value myself and answer as a 90K. I would do everything in that 30-minute conversation to prove that, wait, you can and should be able to give me 110 without any negotiation. So my brain would be wired to put those values across sooner, faster, with an urgency that, wait, they need to know I'm pretty good in what I do.
Hmm. It's almost counterintuitive where if you don't value yourself well, it is actually seen as unattractive in the whole
Mhm.
process.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
recruiter, for a recruiter, is like, if they are not credible enough to confidently make their case, uh, state their claim, then it's not a top performer. And which company wouldn't want a top performer? They're looking for the best person that they can get in every possible situation. So knowing your numbers, knowing how to share those numbers is a credibility marker that actually opts you in the process, not out of the process. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're drilling down on this, Shreya, which is
Yeah.
know your numbers, make sure you know, are doing the internal dialogue of answering those
Yeah.
scripts before you share anything else.
Right. And while you were saying that, I was smiling because why will they like you as a candidate if you yourself don't like yourself as a candidate? If you don't like yourself as a candidate, why will they like you as a candidate? Right? So again, going back to the idea of, if you have that thought that, wait, can I be valued at 110K? Am I asking too much? They would definitely feel that, because your confidence, your self-doubt, they can see all of that.
Understood. Now, let's go to the job offer
Hmm.
stage.
Hmm.
Now, you've gone through this entire process of setting the expectations in the application process, in the screening process. You've done amazingly well in the entire interview process.
Hmm.
Now you get the offer.
Hmm.
My first question is, how do you judge whether that is the best offer that this particular company can give for this position?
Hmm.
And, oh, sorry,
Is that an offer, Varun? Is
it's
that
my
an
mom.
offer? Okay.
She made an offer a long time back. How do you judge this is the best offer that this company can give for this position?
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. And I have a couple more follow ups there.
Okay, perfect. So first would be again doing a lot of research, right? When you share those first numbers, you already have an idea what is that ballpark of this is the minimum that I'm looking for, right? Doesn't have to be a deal breaker, but must haves should be very set very clearly. My must have is the minimum base salary of let's say 200K. My must have is an equity, right? My must have is a bonus. My must have is a relocation bonus of minimum 10K. Whatever your must haves are should be there first. Now, during the conversation, when you're having conversation with them, you would know a couple of things more. One, the impact of your work, right? Second, the kind of work that you would be doing in the sense of the stakeholders, in the sense of ambiguity, in the sense of how impactful it is, the urgency of the work, right? That gives a lot more space for you to negotiate your numbers. Because if they're liking you and if they've taken you until the offer and you've picked up these things from the conversations that, wait, this is very impactful, this is important, there is a lot of ambiguity in it, that means there is risk, there is challenges, there are times when it is going to be a little bit, mental load as well, then I want to increase those numbers, right? From what I've discussed earlier. Third, once I get into the stage of, from the hiring manager to loop rounds, I have an idea that from here it is very difficult to not like somebody, to be honest, right? Because hiring manager has an idea what they want. Now you speaking with the stakeholders and going into depth of your work, that's where you want to now start talking to more people and start researching a lot more of what are these numbers for this level. Right now the levels could look different. For an example, an Amazon L7 from outside versus an Amazon L7 internally could look different, right? I want to understand both the numbers. Again, having more conversations with these people. Now, I understand a lot of time these people are not available for conversations, right? Then you come back to what value you are sharing, plus the conversations you have had until the loop round with the teammates, with the interviewers, correct? One, whenever we think that research cannot give us enough, there is not enough information, people are not talking, people are. I speak with so many people who are ready to share so many things, just you need to ask the right way, ask the right question with them, right? You get them on an unrecorded phone call, they would share a lot of things with you. Like you can share with them and be like, no, I just need to know. And you be transparent with them as well. I've actually gotten an offer, which are these numbers. Um, do you think this is right? Right? Talk to your friends, talk to your network. And if you don't have that network, if you don't have people to talk with, that's probably the first thing you should start doing, like from this minute. That the job search machinery that I was talking about, Varun, the biggest piece is networking in that. If people don't know you, you don't know them, there is somewhere a gap between what you can offer and what you are actually offering. You yourself cannot know your value until you're speaking with other people. So longer answer would be that. Shorter answer would be one, know your value really well from the first conversation till the offer is extended. Second, take all the nuances from the conversation and figure out like the ambiguity, the data required, the stakeholder you will be managing, kind of people you'll be working with, urgency, impact of the work, all of that. That should be a very good piece to negotiate your offer, right? Third, I would also want to think about, wait, is this giving me everything that I need, just not the numbers? Then I wouldn't worry about. Again, the deal breakers, right? The job profile is fab. I love the manager. I love the city that I want to work with. I'm getting a brand. I'm getting the company. I'm getting everything that I want to work with. Just the numbers are not right. Do I still want to go ahead? Just balance the deal breakers again. Is this a deal breaker? If numbers are deal breaker, honestly, you wouldn't have reached until here. You shouldn't have agreed to continue interviewing with them. Um, yeah, I think all of those would be my thoughts, right? I know that I gave you a little, a longer answer, but I hope that answers.
Let me paraphrase that quickly for everybody listening, which is you have to know your value. Hopefully, you've communicated that throughout the rounds and you're okay to proceeding to the stage. Now, if you've highballed yourself, like Nishant is saying here, then you might have to do the job of convincing the value that you are adding to the table and why it is worth for them to go to their final range or the budget that you have agreed to.
Hmm.
An interesting question I've had, which is I mentored folks as well, and I mentored a staff engineer recently who was applying for a GPU company. I'll just
Mm,
keep it at that.
mm,
And we showed a lot of data, right? Blind
mm,
layoff, levels.fyi, Glassdoor, etc. An interesting objection that they raised
mm.
was, we don't believe in these numbers, or we
Yeah,
don't take these numbers into consideration.
yeah.
How should somebody answer that objection?
I wouldn't go ahead and open my sources, first of all, because again, these are still unsolicited. They're right about it, right? Companies have not written it, employees have written it. Can they corroborate with their offer letters? No. Can they corroborate that with a pay slip? Nobody would do that, right? So I have all the rights to say as a company that these are unsolicited, right? That's one. Second, I wouldn't go ahead and like open my sources. I would just say that I have people that I've spoken with and I know their numbers, right? And again, I don't really have to say it, because when I say this is my research plus this is my value, so first would still be value, Varun. If they can see that
Mm,
value, they wouldn't negotiate that hard. they
mm,
wouldn't they wouldn't make it difficult for you to work together, because that's literally the foundation of the work, right? Because every conversation that you're having with the recruiter, with the negotiation, it does go back to the team knows that
mm,
you're negotiating, team knows what you're saying, right? They know everything. So it is
mm,
still the base, right? So you would not want to say things that you do not want your team to know about the whole
mm,
negotiation perspective. So I would still start with the value, because if you have the value, the negotiations wouldn't be that hard. And if the negotiations are pretty hard, do you want to reevaluate your research? Right? Do you want to reevaluate and speak with somebody that, wait, this is what I'm asking and this is what they're giving? They might know more about the market than you do. And it doesn't have to be people from the same company, it can be people from other companies, right? And they can actually tell you that, wait, if I would have been hiring, I would give these numbers, so it makes sense. Then you have more, wait, my research works, versus, wait, if I would be hiring, I wouldn't give these numbers. Even if I'm like in a smaller company, I probably wouldn't give these numbers, I would probably give something less. If you have like a couple of more industry leaders sharing that information, you have an idea that your research somewhere is failing and you got to level it up. So one would
mm,
still be value, second would still be resources online. But I would still go back, I would still want you to speak to a couple of these people, and then take up that decision of like, is it a deal breaker? Is this 10K, 12K, 15K, 25K a deal breaker? For me 25K should be, but if it's 10K it shouldn't be.
I see that there is always room if they continue to see value, and not that if they do not see value. Sometimes
Mm,
they, like in this example that I shared,
mm,
what the hiring manager said was that they needed this person to learn a specific skill.
yeah.
And because they need to learn that specific skill, the
Mm,
company is incorporating that in their calculations.
mm.
And then you basically have to judge whether that is fair for you, that is good enough for you to move on or not. The final question I'll ask is, how do you know you've gotten the best offer out of that company at this stage?
Um, the relationships that you've built, that means the connection that you have with the recruiter, because recruiter is the only one who knows both the sides as as deeply as they could, right? Because they have had the initial conversation with you. So first, make sure that you are kind of befriending the recruiter, not in a wrong sense. That means, wait, I'll get all the information out of that, not in the evil sense, but in a good sense that, wait, if they can do right by you and vice versa. So one would be that, because if the recruiters are sharing information with you, if they are calling you and then they're telling you that, wait, this is the interview going to look like, this is what it is going to be, then you for sure know that they are somewhere being the advocate for your numbers as well, right? And they would, and I have done that multiple times where I would go and tell my team and be like, wait, that's a great candidate, we cannot and shouldn't lose them for like just these numbers, right? Let me go ahead
Mm,
to the finance team, let me see if I can get like an approval, and then I'll ask my manager like, hey, if this approval is okay, would you be still be okay to go ahead and take them, right? And they'll be
mm,
like, wait, I don't have the budget. It's like, I'll get the approval, would you be okay or not? Tell me that, right? Because I know that there is so much more that they can offer, that maybe those 45 minutes are not cutting through. But obviously that again is with an assumption that everybody else is a yes. The negotiation part only
mm,
comes when everybody else is a yes. I also want to add here that if anybody is a soft no in this process, then the negotiation could get difficult, because then they are
mm,
right. They're saying that, wait, I'm saying no and you guys are asking, and you all are saying to increase the numbers, doesn't make sense to me.
mm. Everybody has to be on board. And it's surprising to hear something that even I didn't know, that a recruiter could go and bat for higher numbers from the financial
Yeah.
team inside the organization. That is excellent to know.
Yeah,
Was
that just
that
needs to that just needs
similar in
yeah.
most companies that you worked at?
Yeah,
Okay.
they just need to have a bandwidth. So, for an example, if my bandwidth is like 110 to 150, right? Now I can get an approval until 150 just at that time because every manager, and again, obviously, internally it could look different, but every hiring manager has a budget when they're hiring, right? And if that budget, I can go to the finance team and be like, wait, this is the budget. Can I utilize it all? Versus I only want to utilize three-fourth of it. I only want to utilize 90% of it. I can have that conversation, but again, goes back to the idea the hiring manager needs to approve that, okay, wait and go and have a conversation with the finance team also. It's a simultaneous approval that I need from both.
Yeah. I think the final thing I'll say there is if you've built leverage
Hmm.
by with
Hmm.
relationship, if you built leverage with your
Value.
personal brand, then you can say no to the company. And
Hmm.
sometimes they will come back with an offer if they
Hmm.
want to make sure. So
Hmm.
sometimes the no, final no doesn't need to come from the company side. It can come from your side as
Yeah,
well.
I just want to add one more thing to it, Varun, which the two things that you said. Third thing would be reassurance. That means when you're negotiating, you got to reassure them that, hey, this is what I want. And my favorite question that a candidate should and can ask is, hey, I really want this role. How can we make it work? Please tell me.
Hmm.
Right?
Hmm.
Now the onus is on them, the responsibility is on them to figure it out. How do we make it work? Right? That means candidate is not saying no. You are saying no because you cannot stretch the numbers. So it's not on me. So there is no broken relationship, there's no bone bridge, or there's nothing here if I say no to this role and this offer because I am saying I want it. Can you just get to the numbers that I want right now? So reassurance works
Awesome.
really well in negotiation.
This is amazing. Thank you so much for all the information that you shared here. I am just going through all the questions to see if they have any uh, specific question regarding negotiation.
Yeah.
I think what I'll do at this point, because I know that you have a hard stop in 4 minutes,
Hmm.
I would take this opportunity to maybe not answer some of the questions, although very, very important and vital, but we have limited time with Shreya.
Hmm.
What I can do is I can stick behind after Shreya leaves to just make sure that I answer questions from my vantage point.
Nice. Yeah.
Um, just to kind of make sure that people have some answers. But at this point, I
Hmm.
would like to ask you some personal questions, not crazy personal questions, but just
Go on.
some rapid fire questions to
Okay.
have people know more about you.
Hmm.
Sometimes, even though I'm friends with people that I have on show and I know a lot about them, sometimes these questions also help me know them better. So I
Okay.
want to give people a chance to know Shreya behind the coach Shreya that we all
Let's
know,
do
right?
that.
So um, one question, simple rapid fire question is favorite movie.
Oh my God. I have been watching Chakte India on repeat since it has come out. So I'll probably say that. It gives me a lot of power and energy. I can be anything and
Very cool.
everything is what it tells me. So that.
Very cool. Recently watched it with my two daughters, and it was fun
Yeah.
experience for them.
Yeah.
Your go-to cuisine when you're going out to eat.
I would say Thai food. It's warm, it's flavorful, and I think somehow everybody who's serving is like so warm, and I like that with my food. Like there's warmth, there's conversation. So I would say Thai food.
Very cool.
Yeah.
This one is a little bit loaded one, which is, do you believe in God?
Oh, I do. Yes, 100%. Um, if you would ask me to define God, I probably wouldn't be able to do it, but I just know that there is one guiding power that keeps me going and that makes me do good things to myself and to others in life. So 100% yes. Oh my God. My tattoo
Awesome.
says God is greater than all ups and downs, Varun.
Oh, wow. Very cool. I didn't know that. See,
There
I
you
get to know
go.
my friends a bit more.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Final question would be if you could give somebody a challenge, somebody who's listening to this episode around the topic that we talked today, which is negotiating a job offer.
Yeah.
If you could give somebody a challenge to do this week,
Yeah.
that can be done in less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
They can do it on the weekend, wherever, whenever they find time.
Yeah.
What would that challenge be for them?
First is create like an ego boost sheet. That means everything that you put across the table as a candidate. That means I call it an ego boost because then you should be able to read it and be like, wait, I am amazing. I've done such great work. Why am I lowballing myself, right? I don't have to fall into the imposter syndrome, this thing. That'll be one. And second is practice their negotiations. That means the number that they want and how are they going to have that dialogue with um, the recruiter. And obviously, when you're practicing, you need to research. So I would ask three things. One, the ego boost sheet. Second, research your numbers and then figure out what you want to say. And third, the practice. That means practice it. Can everything be done within 2 hours? No. But should you be doing all these three? Yes, 100%. Because any screening call, just don't take it as it's just a call with the recruiter. I've heard so many people saying that, Varun, it's just a call with the recruiter. You'll get rejected in 1 second if they don't like you, right? And you would be ghosted, unfortunately, if they do not like the technical or the non technical aspect of who you are. So it's not just a recruiter call, it is literally a recruiter call. That's your entry to the whole interview process. So I would say do these three things.
Awesome challenge. Thank you so much for being with
Yeah.
us today. This was an excellent session. How should people reach you? What is something that you're doing that will be very helpful for them?
Yeah.
Please promote yourself unabashedly because I think
Yeah.
what you do is of value. So I want you to tell people how they can benefit from your expertise.
Of course. So, a couple of things where to reach me is my LinkedIn, Coach Shreya Mehta. This is where you are at right now. So, Coach Shreya Mehta, and then my Instagram as well. Both the places has great resources. So does my website. What am I doing? If you are in Seattle, I have an in-person networking event actually coming on 26th of February, which is Thursday 26th, and we're bringing a panel of decision makers and hiring managers to just talk about everything hiring. So if you are in Seattle, you 100% don't want to miss it or share it with somebody who is in Seattle. I have like maybe few more spots left. Another thing that I'm doing it, I do a lot of webinars on just interviews or like workshops on interviews. If you are somebody who's looking for that, then definitely reach out to me, DM me on my LinkedIn. The link is not out there for everybody. I just want to see if you really need to sit in that. If you do, then I'll share the link with you. So go ahead, send me a DM on LinkedIn, and I'll share all the details of the upcoming workshop and webinars that I have. Third thing that I do, Varun, is I coach mentees for their job search. So if you are searching for your next role and you're not sure what is not working and then where to start, let's have a conversation, see if we are a great fit for each other. And if we are a great team, then we should definitely work together to get the next role for you. So these are the three things that where we can have conversations. And otherwise, if you just want to grab a coffee, just want to chat more, I'm happy to do that and help you through that as well.
That is
Yeah.
awesome. Three amazing things, amazing ways to take advantage of what you are doing, what you're sharing. I will be sticking around
Yes.
once we leave just to make sure I
Perfect.
answer people's questions from my vantage point. But thank you so much for being
Yeah.
part of this and
Thank you.
being part of the Beyond Grad Show. And I'll see you soon.
Yeah.
Something that I am happy to say.
Yes, I'll see you super soon as well. And thank you so much for bringing such great questions and moderating it so well. And I'm so glad that we could share so many insights with, and I'm pretty sure it's very, very helpful for all of them. So thank you for having me, Varun. Yeah.
See you.
Bye. See you soon.
All right. I hope all of you had a really great time in the session. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up some of the questions that were left unanswered and just answer them here so that you have one perspective. To people who don't know me, I'm Varuni Gandhi. I have created a website called Beyond Grad, where I help 9 to 5 professionals improve their careers beyond graduation, which means job search, personal branding. Now, I have also helped mentees one on one, and I've seen these processes through and through. So I'll share what I can share for your questions from my vantage point again. Let me take some of the questions that were left unanswered. What is a good structure for a resume? Asks Samir. Samir, I think one of my frameworks that have worked really well for my mentees is called a RARE framework. RARE. So your resume needs to be rare for it to be called for interviews. What does that mean? It needs to be readable first. So a good structure is a one column resume, something very clean. If you have more than 5 years of experience, have it be 2 pages. If it's less than that, then 1 page is good enough. Have some breathing room. I know a lot of people just fit everything in 1 page, but have some breathing room, have some white space. Make sure you curate what the person reads in the very beginning. That's where they spend most of their time. So, readability is number one, applicability is number two. It can be readable, but if it's not applicable to the position, then that's not good as well. So, you want to make sure that there is applicability with the job title and job responsibilities. And the final is remarkability. This is where you need to have shown the impact that you've made in your past experience and all the work that you have done. So that means whether your resume are like a micro story, whether I as a reader can understand the impact that you brought to other companies, and similarly what you can do for mine. So readability, applicability, and remarkability. That's a good structure for a resume. And one column resume, clean, simple fonts, and you should be good. Okay, another question. I wanted to ask for your guidance as a F1 OPT candidate. I noticed some roles don't mention sponsorship, but later in the process, they say that they are not considering international candidates. Is there a way to confirm confirm this in the application? Unfortunately, not. As an immigrant, you will face sponsorship as a big thorn in your side. Here are three ways to kind of help you make sure that you are applying to places that have been sponsorship friendly or are open to sponsorship. One, see where other immigrants work. It is most likely a company that is open to sponsorship in the future. You have a lot of people in your network. Just look at the companies that they are working at. Try to apply at those companies. That's number one. Number two, you can go to USCIS and see which companies have applied for H1Bs. Again, that is not real time. A company might have applied for an H1B in the past, but are not doing that right now. So again, you will not be able to know that at this stage, but you can look at the database of companies that have applied for H1Bs in the past. Most likely, they will apply again in the future. Finally, and this is the most important one, the third one is talk to people. The best people who know whether a company is doing sponsorship or not are people who are working at those companies. Build relationships at target companies and see if you can find that information. You can ask this question during the screening round with the recruiter, and you can ask this question and you can see what they answer. Sometimes when you are very close to your OPT ending, because you mentioned you have F1 OPT, and if you've not had a job, you want to try and see if you can get some interviews, get some conversations going, knowing full well that there is a risk that you go down this process and they can come back to you and say that they will not hire. But still, I'm asking you to have as many conversations as you can have, because sometimes if companies like you as a candidate, if they've not done any sponsorship in the past, they might still be open to make an exception for you. So that's those are multiple ways to navigate sponsorship during F1 OPT situations. So Niharika asks a question: what about when they are taking time to move you to the next rounds? I'm assuming that they are in the middle of interviewing and there's time that passes between your one round ending and the next round beginning. Again, there are a lot of things that can go behind the scenes. I was somebody who has hired in the past as well, so I know a lot of what happens behind the scenes. It can be that the company is still wondering whether they want to keep this requisition open or they have the budget for it. So there can be a renewed conversation around that behind the scenes. Another could be that they have a lot of candidates that they are reviewing and they'll only move people on to the next stage. When there are a lot of reasons why there can be a gap between one interview and the other. What you can do is continue to build that relationship with the recruiter. If they have given you a timeline, let's say they said, I'll let you know on Friday. Then on Friday, send them a message if you've not heard from them. Then see what they say as to what the next timeline looks like. If they say, okay, we will not be able to tell you for a month, then most likely you'll only get a response from them when they've given you that timeline. And feel free to bring it up, saying, hey, I noticed that you had mentioned that you'd get back to me in a month. I'm still really excited for the role. This is a good fit for me. How can we continue with the process? And just try to see if you can get any information that way. A recruiter may not respond. A big reason could be that they don't have clarity. So, in that case, irrespective of where you are in the process, like Shreya said, once you are done with like a grueling round of interview, take a break for a day, take some breather. Don't expect to stop the process. Please make sure that you continue with the job search process because you need a job. You can't put all your eggs in the bucket of what's happening in the company that you're interviewing at. So I would recommend that as well. How do you ask for referrals from connections you don't know personally well? Ask Neeraj. Neeraj, I've had people land advocates with strangers that they just met, and also people who went to their first connections and maybe that talk fizzled out. The reason why I say that is you want to try and build a relationship, get them to answer some of your specific questions about the role, answer some of your questions on a phone call. And once you have built that level of relationship and they are convinced that you are a fit for that role that is open in their organization, feel free to just make the ask outright. Hey, would you be willing to recommend me for this role or refer me for this role? Here's the job ID. I'm a really good fit for these minimum qualifications, and I would really like a referral. And see if they are open to doing that or not. Know that it is their reputation at stake. So you would have to help them help you make sure that their reputation is not going to be harmed through the process. But you can ask referrals from people you don't know personally well. I have seen many a times in my programs, people have gotten referrals this way. You just have to be kind, you have to be human, you have to make them feel valued and not just one of the people that you are going to ask for a referral and hope it lands. So that means asking them specific questions about their career, asking them how you can get better based on their experience, and then going from there. A question is, why do recruiters these days tend to ghost candidates instead of being upfront about whether they are rejected or moving forward? I think we mentioned a lot of those in the call, Gayatri, which is they might not have complete information or they might be reviewing other candidates. Shreya mentioned that sometimes she was, at one point, she was hiring for 17 different roles at the same time. Sometimes they don't have the bandwidth to give you all the information. I know from the candidate side that sucks. You want to find closure or you want to find exact referrals. But what I will tell you is that expect to be ghosted in this process. It will relieve you that expectation that, okay, yes, you are going to be ghosted in this process. That will relieve a lot of the angst that you are holding in this job search. The job search is an emotional ride already. You want to make sure that you are controlling the levels of emotions, the roller coaster that you're going through, because you still need to continue to act. So expect to be ghosted. Have a plan of what you will do when you're ghosted. Maybe that's a follow up message, or maybe that you set your internal timeline. That's why recruiters ghost. You just some of them are not they are it's not like they are bad people. Sometimes they don't have enough bandwidth, they don't have enough information internally, or they don't have good tools to help them scale their communication. Madhvi asks about a written OA assessment of Uber that they have given. I sent a follow emails, but the recruiter is not responding. I can see the application is in review. Could you please help me out here? Uh, Madhvi, if you have done the assessment, if your profile is in review, you've tried to reach out to the recruiter and they are not responding, I think a good effort could be to see if you have advocates in the workplace, somebody that you have a relationship with that can follow up internally to see whether you are really in the process or it's just not flagged appropriately and you haven't gotten any ultimatum one way or the other. That is probably the last thing that you can do. The If that is not possible, then you just go ahead and make sure that you have your mindset at continuing to applying for positions that are a good fit for you. If in any case this comes back, sometimes it does. I would say rarely it does, but it does happen where they come back weeks later, months later, to try and see if you are still open to a position like that. Then it is your call at that time whether you want to go forward with that process or not. But hopefully that helps. All right, let's see. So I've been talking to a lot of US companies lately, says Anjali. I'm currently at a mid-scale startup in India. What is your advice on the best ways to go about it and apply? I think if you are talking already or you've been thinking about to apply, okay. Thinking is different than talking, a lot different. I think you will come across a few issues here. One is the biggest one is immigration. I think people inside the US are struggling for roles and companies are not doing immigration. For you to be outside looking in, it will be extremely difficult. Now, you can continue to build relationships with people at your target companies. So, let's say this is because you're already working at a startup, let's say there are a group of startups in the US that you would love to work for, then what you want to do is continue to build relationships with people who work at these organizations. Let's say the CEO, let me take an example so that it drives this point home. Let's take Whisper Flow. Whisper Flow is a startup in the US that is getting some traction. I know both the founders right on the platform. I know some people on the team right on the platform. What I will do is I will make sure that I hit the bell icon on their profile every time that they post. I am in the comment section. I am trying to become a known person for these people. Then I'm trying to see if I can get a connection request approved or a DM relationship going. And then I am on the lookout for roles that I might be fit for. Now, I would suggest strongly that if you're not working in a big organization in India that can do an L1 for you in their branch in the US, then try to see if these startups have roles in India or are open to do some remote roles. Apply for those and see if you can get a fit for those roles. That's the best advice I can give you because otherwise, from going from India to getting a job in the US, it has a lot of challenges. Okay, I'm trying to make sure that I have been able to ask all the questions. There is somebody here who has asked Shreya to accept their connection, their pending LinkedIn requests. I'm not going to bring them here on the screen. The reason being, the this answer might be a little bit of tough love. Is that if you are writing a connection request to somebody, make sure you have some message if you don't know that person. If that might mean doing getting LinkedIn Premium. If you are in the job search phase, I would highly recommend getting LinkedIn Premium. Now, some people will say that, oh, they don't have the money to do that. I can understand that. But if you can squeeze any kind of budget for LinkedIn Premium, I would highly recommend it. So send somebody a connection request so that they know why you are reaching out to them. Without a connection request, it's left on me to judge whether to accept people or not. I've had 82, I have 82,000, 83,000 followers on LinkedIn. So it can imagine the scale of connection requests I've gotten. Almost 90% of it don't have messages. So if there is no personalized connection request, it's just, I don't know what to do with that. So I don't know um, why they are trying to connect with me. The other thing I would mention is that if you want to connect to creators, become a known person to that creator. I write every day on the platform. Shreya writes every day on the platform. There are multiple creators that write every day on the platform. Add value to them. Once you comment in their posts, once you like their posts, you're trying to add value back. When you're trying to add value, you become a known person and then you send a connection request with a note. I'm more likely to accept that connection request. So some tough love here is that a lot of people just expect to send connection requests and feel that, okay, you need to accept the connection request. I or any other creator don't have an existing relationship with you. Uh, we have no reason to accept because we have no information, we have no value exchange, nothing. So see if you can build a relationship that way. That will help you get your connection requests accepted. Somebody asks what are the best sources to research the numbers. Shreya pointed out a lot of them in this call. I will summarize them, and here's some that I share with my mentees as well. So you can go to levels.fyi, Glassdoor, salary.com, and you can go to Blind, which is like a community where you can ask people questions about this. Those are really good sources. Amazing sources are people who already work at that company. Now, it can be awkward. You can't really ask, hey, is this salary? And what is your salary? Sometimes they'll say, sometimes they won't like that you ask this question. A way around that is to say, hey, I'm going after this kind of role. I have this much experience, and here is my research that shares that this is the range for these types of positions in this geographical area for my years of experience. Is this in the ballpark of what you have seen your company pay? I think you will get a little bit more information that way. Another thing is if you have really good advocates, they might already know the kind of salaries that are given and whether that company or that team has more bandwidth. So it all depends on relationships. But then there are obviously sources available that I mentioned. Akshat asks, can I negotiate with respect to what I was getting as an intern at the same company when I'm trying to convert? Yes, you can, but you might be shooting yourself in the foot. A full-time hire is a different salary than an internship. So make sure that you research what the range is for the role. Again, as you are early career, the level of experience, the geographical area, use that. Your intern salary is a good indicator, but then you that will be a different salary than your full-time offer. So make sure you're not shooting yourself in the foot for that. Okay. All right. So we've got some great comments here. People thanking us for um, answering all the questions for the session. We have Niharika. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I am excited to have more people on, and I do solo sessions as well to share my insights. Another person, thank you for answering my question and for this great session. That's awesome. Shravan says the same thing. A question is, how much impact would a behavioral assessment have on moving to the next round? A lot. Um, Behavioral is looked at equally important, if not more, for senior roles, for staff engineer, staff roles, for people management roles. Sometimes, if the role is technical heavy, there is a lot of importance given to the technical round, but final selections are made based on how you respond to behavioral questions. Because imagine this, there are five people, all five have the technical skills. I mean, having technical skills for a tool is not really a separator. Yes, you can be one of the top performers, and that is a benefit. At the same time, the company might not be hiring for a role where you need to be the best of the best for that tool. You need to be good enough. You need to be in the top 10, 20%. So in that case, there are a lot of people there. What differentiates me wanting to work with you versus the other person is where your interpersonal skills, your behavioral skills, your communication skills. That's the separator. So it is extremely important for this. Final comment that I have here is from Sai. Hey, Sai, excited to have you on the show and to meet you for the first time pretty soon. So, awesome. Oh, I have another question. Any tips for cracking the assessment for a project manager? I think by assessments, you mean case type questions. One, lean in on your experience. So if you've already been a project manager, then you have a set of tools that you worked with, a set of frameworks that you worked with. Maybe that's agile, there is waterfall method, maybe there is a combination, a hybrid. What you can do to really crack the assessment is not only lean on your experience, but develop really strong frameworks that you have personally to solve challenging questions. It can be around conflicts, it can be around priorities, it can be leadership. Make sure that you have your internal frameworks that you are able to communicate. That would be an excellent way to crack a project manager assessment. uh, Make sure that you use AI effectively and share how you've used AI if that is allowed. Um, that should be allowed in this world. So those are some thoughts that come to mind. But thank you so much, everybody. Um, Ahmad, uh, thank you for your questions as well. I think I'll piggyback on what Sai has, which is let's go. I hope you have a really good time applying for the positions that you're going after. Make sure you take all the things that we have talked about here in this session and apply them. Application is a lot more important than just consumption of information. Shreya's had a lot of amazing insights in this session. I have tried to share my insights from my experience. So wish you all the best. Take on the challenge that Shreya mentioned, and you know where to find me as well. I'm Varun from Beyond Grad. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we can get the conversation going there. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll check out of this process and talk to you guys soon.